Hello and welcome to Deconstructing the Construct update. I'm going to try and I'll tell you what I think has happened, and then I'll do my best to explain why I think that happened or how that happened. The clock's been wound back again. Now, back around this time last year, possibly December 16, I'm not sure, but it was around now. On a One People show, I gave this analogy of an oven as the construct. And this naughty little boy who snuck into the oven. And he was messing with the timer from the inside. And every time he was winding it back a bit, just as the bell was about to ring, he could wind it back, but he couldn't go back as far as he did the time before. And he was buying a bit more time each time. I do believe they did that yet again on January 8, 2017, last year. They could only wind back the clock to the end of 2012, beginning of 2013, because that's when this space, this copy, was created. So that's as far back as they could go. What we experienced here in 3D or linear time was that they bought 12 months. They bought a year. But energetically, they wound the clock back to, as I said, beginning of 2013. So we experienced 13, 14, 15, and 16, and the series of events, the energetics of it all played out in a condensed version throughout 2017. I believe that that period ended on January 18 of this year, at which point they wound the clock back yet again. But all they've been able to buy this time is 3 months, roughly, in linear calendar time. January, February, March. But energetically, we're going to do the whole thing again. So what I would like you guys to do is let me know if this January, any of your experiences so far this January have been an echo in terms of the events, the themes that have come up so far. I know we're only, it's January 22nd here, so I know we're not that far into the year, but this kind of kicked in quickly. It may even be that what you see, 13, 14, 15, 16, as it was condensed into 17, and now 17 is going to play out again, but 17 is just a replay of 13, 14, 15, 16. So you may actually see it like, oh no, I'm back in 2014 or 15. You're kind of not, but we're not in 2018 either. It energetically does not exist. Lulu said to us when she first made contact, you couldn't see past 2017. And even Moira, in a recent message, said no one can see past 2017. So that includes them. Because it doesn't actually exist. I mean, sorry, 18. Or beyond 17. So, where's any evidence for that? I can only show you and share with you what I've personally experienced in my personal life and what those I work with, the LMH members, and the themes that are coming up with these guys. Back in July, I think it was, Lulu came through and said that much of what was said in our early contact was misunderstood. So there has been a desire to want to go back and re-listen to those things, but I've just never got the chance to until January, until the last sort of 10 days, I think it's been that long. Not even. And what was highlighted for me, going back and looking at some of the very original contact, was the date of March 17. And I've been pondering it ever since, sort of over this last week or so. And remembering that Cliff High had March 17 as a date on his radar for some time. And whatever he was expecting didn't actually happen in March of 2017. March 17, 2017. So it's been carried over. In, I think it was November, during some energetic work that was being done, Lulu said to me, mark the time. And the time was 8:18 p.m. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if it represented a date or a time or it was a symbol or whatever it was. And it wasn't until January 18 that it all made sense. So what started on January 8, 2017, this rewind of the clock, this cycle that began, ended on January 18, 8/18. For me, that played out with doing the same activities with the same person. Now, some of you may remember that on January 8, 2017, I recorded and published, which has since been taken out of public view, but it's in the members, a video with a friend of mine about the stars and the number 88. And it was recorded and published on January 8. And it started a rabbit hole for me of research around the number 88 and how it's all connected to time, time travel, time looping, time distortions, all of that. This year, on the 18th of January, I played out the same events with the same person in the most uncanny and unpredictable and unexpected ways. And between the two of us, there was so many 8s and 18s around everything that we were doing. It was just bizarre. You can't make this shit up. What I'm also seeing is just this month of January 2018, there are people who are starting to talk about things that myself and Danny on the One People show and myself and the members were talking about a year ago. We've got people talking about the waiting room, and they're calling it the waiting space or the sitting room or the holding space or something like that, but they're describing the waiting room. The colour purple. Purple is the new pink. And I'll explain something about that in a minute. My daughter on New Year's Eve randomly said something completely out of the blue. The January 18 was going to be significant. The consequence for them rewinding this clock all the time is that every time they take us back, we have an opportunity to close out all the extraneous, false, extra timelines. So they have fewer and fewer choices every time they do it too. I have, again, with the people that I work with, there have been so many who have been actively, consciously and unconsciously with dreams and all of that, playing and working with timelines and closing out timelines and all of that just in the last week. I have physically been conscious of being moved around like a tennis ball battered back and forth since last Thursday, since the 18th. Which is why one of the reasons we are seeing the transparency, we are seeing the cleanup happening, is because all of their little nooks and crannies where they would normally be able to hide don't exist anymore. a friend of mine who sees very well, very clearly, and quite literally, found herself in a clock that had been wound so tight that she couldn't even touch it, because the slightest touch, this thing was going to blow, and that it couldn't be wound again. It could not be wound back again. And once it's played out this latest wind, it will blow. And prior to anything being said, she got March is when it will blow. We've got Alison Coe, who some of you may be aware of, a lot of you probably are aware of, who does the updates and reports on QHHT clients, said that without a doubt, without an exception I should say, that when she can get a timeline for the event, they all say first quarter of this year. What else? It's one set of notes. Okay. Going back about a week, just over a week, was able to observe what I call the white dementors, because that's exactly what they look like, the dementors out of Harry Potter, except they're white. They are connected to the owl. And they are already dead. They're lifeless. But their entire realm was destroyed. It is no more. QAnon put a post in about fly owls, and I know that a lot of you who are following QAnon will say, yeah, but that represents some weapon. It probably does. However, I do, from watching some of his stuff lately, think that those messages are very multidimensional and multifaceted, and they're not all for the public. They are warnings to different factions. Sometimes it feels like he's sort of sitting on the fence and playing both sides, but definitely multidimensional as far as I'm concerned. There was also, in this recent week, part of the technology that controls this construct was destroyed. It was in the Draco system, in the Cat's Eye Nebula. So I'll just leave that at that. Which brings me to Hawaii and their so-called false alarm. This is what, I'll tell you what was observed. Going back, and I have talked about this publicly, I'm sure, before, but going back about a year, I did some remote viewing with a few people at Antarctica. And what I saw was an underwater weapon. And this was a huge thing. I really couldn't tell what it did. But there was a situation going on down there where the powers that be from here were in negotiations with a whole group of people over there, all our neighbours. And what I saw was somebody high up in the military whose job it was to sell this weapon, or the idea of this weapon, to them, because they thought they were in negotiations. This was their big be-all and end-all. And it was like, we don't get what we want, we're going to use this weapon, and all these people that you think you're trying to save won't be here anymore. And there was a couple of things about that. One, there were really no negotiations. All the people who were talking to the people, the powers that be, were really just stalling them for time. They were just keeping them busy. They were never going to negotiate with them because there was no way out for them. Second thing was the person in charge of selling this idea knew it wasn't going to work anyway. But his head was on the line to sell it. He knew the weapon wouldn't work, but he knew he was screwed. Now come forward and to the Hawaii stuff. Hawaii was a decoy. As far as I can see. As far as others can see. It was one of several decoys. There probably was, from what we saw, a missile launched and shot down. But it was always meant to be. The people who were claiming to have shot it down and be the good guys, no, they were just part of the plan. The missile was never meant to land. It was just meant to be a decoy. One of at least 4. Because what was at the same time happening was something being organised from Antarctica. But that weapon went offline, and it looks like it might have been a bioweapon that was going to be released globally. And if not all, many countries are involved. All the big ones. This is a joint effort because they all have, it's all in their best interest, essentially. Didn't work. All got taken out. And they are running out of plans. I don't know what plan they're up to now, but A, B, C, and D, well and truly gone. And I think they're only just figuring out that every time they wind back the clock, they're narrowing their own options. But, okay, purple. I've had one of my beautiful friends and members telling me for 6 months, purple's next. Purple's next. Again, Alison Coe has talked about this purple wave coming in. And it's been mentioned elsewhere too. What I see is the sun turning red. The 3ZB that's coming in is blue. And when they meet, it turns purple. So that's where the purple comes in for me. And it just keeps coming up. What else? I think that might be it. Oh, and just as a side note, as while all of this was going on, one of the members has a dream, a very, very lucid dream, where she went out of phase with her. She's lying in bed and she can see herself and her husband. She goes out of phase and turns up in her mother's house. Her sister is there, except they look different. The furnishings are different. She knows she's in an alternative timeline. She's trying to tell them that she's from January 2018. And they're like, don't be silly, it's March 2017. So she was actually in an alternative too. She wasn't just taken back, she was in an alternative. And then she panicked, tried to find a way out again, managed to find a way back and came back. She felt like she was moved to keep her safe while something else went down over here and then she could be put back. I know these are weird experiences and everyone sounds nuts. I get it. But she had no idea either about the January, February, March, 2017, 18, all that. So I think that's it for the minute. Something has been, building over the last 24 hours that's really, really big and very positive, but I have no idea what it is just yet. But yeah, keep me posted if you start noticing a theme or a repeat of themes of events, because that's what I think is going on. So bye for now. Hold on tight.